Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. This is TEDxISoc with the Exec, an evening with the Exec. So we're just going to share some things that we've learnt during our time in our positions. Hopefully they're useful to you, and mainly it's just about our journey since September and
since June.
June, post AGF. Enjoy.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum. As I think pretty much everyone here knows, my name's Ira and I am the Sisters We Be. So if I go on about how I got involved in ISoc, which was really weird. I don't know how I got involved. I just got dragged. To be fair, I was scared of getting involved in the ISoc because Islamic society, I mean the ladies here can tell that I'm not one of the most. And I was like, if I get involved, will I be accepted for who I am? I mean, you've all talked to me, you know how I get. So there was that, and my friend pushed me to you should join it, and she's all the way in Scotland, and she gave me Molly's number from over there, which is weird because she's over there. But then and the first thing I came to was a talk, and I was like, I don't like talks. I don't know, I don't like sitting in talks. Not the best thing to say. But then I got involved in Charity Week, which was a crash course in ISoc because you're selling donuts and you're selling tea and biscuits. And then it just sort of went from there, and I met these lovely people and became friends with them. And then the IW happened, and for some reason I got this as coordinator. Once again, that's it. I don't know how that happened. Mazia just like you should do it. Okay, fine, I'll do it. I had no idea what I was getting into, and then I was like, what have I done? So that was amazing. And then I don't know, that finished, and she was like, you want to be just coordinator? Like, what? You want me to do what after the IW? After what I've done? It's like, yeah, why not? Like, okay, fine. And that's how these people got stuck with me. That was it. Okay, since March, since we've been in, what I've learned and what this has taught me is I suck at managing time. So this has taught me, not actually taught me how to manage time, it just taught me how really bad I am at doing it. It's helped me meet a lot of amazing people. It's made me learn about myself. I struggle with a lot of things. Okay, I think one of the main things I've struggled with is because Islam was always a part of my life since I was born. Like, in a Muslim household and in a Muslim country, which people might not agree with because it's Saudi Arabia. But Islam was always a part of my life. It was always part of my lifestyle, the culture. But it wasn't something that you had to ponder upon. Islam was just praying 5 times a day, and my parents did the zakat and everything. There's nothing it had to do with me, but not per se. And then umrah once in a while and stuff. So it helped me realize it's not just all that. It's more. It's in small actions, small deeds, small intentions that it made me realize that you can't force someone and thrust religion down anyone's throat the way I was taught you could do. Because it's pretty simple. Like back home, it's just like you tell people you are wrong, and that is it. You don't explain to them. You don't nicely teach them and push them gently towards what is right. You just give them away, and that's how I came into it, and I realized it's the wrong thing. So I sort of grown and learned as a person. Do I think people should do it? It is horrendous. It takes up your time. It kills your social life. That is if you had one. Unless you're me, in which case, go ahead. But yeah, it's an interesting experience, and you learn a lot of things.
Do you have any advice for the next 2
2BVP. Okay. I think the main advice would be smile all the time. That helps a lot, even if you don't want to. Be friendly, regardless if you want to pull your hair out. Get to know people, get to know their struggles, because you generally have no idea what someone's going through. It's one of the biggest things. Never underestimate anyone's struggle, or even overestimate it. Just get to know each person, and just be a good person.
Why may I? Because supposed to.
Because Rushdi is gone, you can go now.
Alright, Assalamualaikum. So I'm kind of nervous, as you can see, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I'm gonna stammer a lot, so deal with it. I'm really sorry. Forgive me if I've said something wrong. So, Alhamdulillah, I might even burst into tears while I'm talking because it has been quite a journey for me. So if I do, just forgive me. So my journey, I would like to start off with my journey in ISoc. So today, wherever I am, 2 years back, I wasn't like this, obviously. The journey in the last 2 years has been quite spiritual for me. I come from a cultural background, which is not really, where the center of your life is not really religion. It's more like culture as the center of your life and entertainment. Although I come from a Muslim country, I did not wear a headscarf and I wasn't practicing. Well, I would do the basic regular prayer, but not like I wouldn't go and research into religious stuff, or I would just recite the Quran like a goat without understanding it, just be in Arabic. And I wouldn't really know why I'm doing this, and it would always be like a competition that I have to finish it, and I would count the number of times I would finish reciting Quran. But that was just about it. It was never about really exploring the religion. But when I came here, alhamdulillah, since I used to pray regularly, that's the only good thing I used to do. I met a sister in the prayer room, and she told me that, like, hey, we have a dinner with ISoc sisters, do you want to join? And then I was like, yes, why not? Then I went and I joined, and boom, my life changed. So alhamdulillah, after that, I was kind of scared because I didn't know how people would accept me, whether I would be judged. Because back in Bangladesh, I'm from Bangladesh, people judge you a lot, even if you wear a scarf, even if you don't wear a scarf, whatever you do, people are going to judge you anyways. So basically it's quite a risk. It was quite a risk for me. Even my parents didn't want me to wear a headscarf, so I had to actually fight against my parents. And for social reasons, obviously. But then when I started wearing a headscarf, I didn't tell my parents I was, and then I told them later. Surprise! Yeah, and so basically, when I started coming to ISoc, I saw that people were really friendly and welcoming, and they wouldn't judge you at any cost, and irrespective of who you are, where you come from, and how you are, however you dress up. That made me feel really comfortable, and I saw all those amazing sisters doing everything in the world, wearing that scarf, and that really encouraged me. And alhamdulillah, I started wearing it. It's been like my second year, yeah. So I was active in terms of participating in the classes, but not as an organizer or as a manager or things like that. But I used to come to all the ISoc events, alhamdulillah. And that's my journey. And when I was in ISoc, I think it was the tenure of Rufaida. Rufaida was the vice president. I have learned so much from her, and alhamdulillah, Salina was there too, and she's still here, and I've learned so much from them. And I also got Shoaib, and he is also one of the best person you can get to learn from. And I feel that I'm really lucky, and people who have not got these three people at the same time, well, you're a bit unlucky maybe, but no. But these people were really amazing, alhamdulillah, and I've learned so much from them, and I have learned from them how to learn. So that opened many doors for me. And then the real time came where I had to give something back to ISoc because I've taken so much from ISoc. So, and then I was nominated for wider exec, and I was like, okay, I'll go to the AGM, I'll vote for people, and then I'll ditch everyone and run away and not run for wider exec. I literally had that in my mind. I wasn't planning to run for exec anyways. So I went there, and then when we had the time for the exec nomination confirmation where you really have to put your name down, I saw Salim was already running for wider exec, and there was not a single soul running for campus as coordinator. I'm like, what the hell is this post about? No one is running for campus as coordinator. I mean, really, it's really sad. And then I was like, okay, so Salim is already there, and he's the only one, he's gonna get it anyway. So I might as well run for campus coordinator. And I had no idea what a wider exec was. And obviously campus, the name is quite self-explanatory, you know what that is. So I'm like, okay, I'll run for that. And obviously I had some sisters looking at me with puppy dog eyes, please go for campus coordinator. And then I went for it. And of course, I didn't know whether I was fit for the role. I really didn't know. But I had two things in my mind. Okay, I know I had the best of intentions, and my purpose here was to give back to ISoc and please Allah. and do whatever I'm doing with the best of my force. And B, I always like working for causes which help people who are deprived. So this fits in quite well with my principles. So I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go. And then obviously I was elected because I was the only one. And here I am today, more finished, refined product. Yeah, so what I've learned so far in my role, I think I've learned to motivate myself when there is nothing to motivate you, because it's a role, I would call it very seasonal. So it depends on what kind of opportunity you're getting and what kind of people you're getting, and interest, demand, it's quite seasonal. And not like every year you're gonna have a booming year, or every year, because my role is to do with people. For example, the president has to work no matter what, but my role is like, either you work or you don't work, and you always keep on trying. And obviously when I met Tron and Akila, my mind was blown. I'm like, oh no, I'm not taking this role. So that's when my nightmare began, basically. I was like, okay, so I have to give up the standard of Akila and Tron. Subhanallah. And I was so scared and anxious. I'm like, how am I gonna even, they have raised the standard bar so high, and how on earth am I going to live up to that? But then I knew, like, all I can do is just try my best. And obviously, to add on to that, Akila left SB. But anyways, so I have faced a lot of lack of interest in people. I was expecting that people would have more demand from every campus, but some people didn't have demand, some people had lack of interest, some people really wanted to do something, but then obviously you get manpower as well. And me being from University Park was kind of difficult, because I did not really belong to that community in SB or Derby. So I had to travel back and forth and get to know people. And by the time, for example now, when I'm really accustomed to it, the procedure and people and the community there, my tenure is over really. So it was quite a struggle for me. It was quite difficult, I wouldn't say it wasn't. So, but I've learned to face failure. I've learned to motivate myself, even when, I'm sorry I'm talking too much, but yeah, okay. So I'm motivating myself, and I've also learned that, well, not all people will be interested in your work. And the last thing is that don't be over ambitious. So that's the things I've learned, those are the things I've learned in my role. And as an exec, I've learned to manage my time better. I always loved doing a lot of things at one go, so that fills up my regular schedule. So I love the fact that I'm being able to manage the time better. And I now know to attend meetings, boring meetings, with a smile on your face, every day if it's possible, and I wouldn't be bored. And I know how to communicate with people better, irrespective of where they come from. And I know I'm more confident now. I think I've reinforced my self-esteem, and I believe in myself more now. I'm more confident, because 2 years before this, I would not have been able to sit here and talk to you people. I would be shaking, and I was telling Salina, oh my god, I don't want to do this, I hate public speaking, but now I think I've come across my fear. If I'm not perfect, obviously, but it's much better than before, so I've really boosted up my confidence. And yeah, so that helped. Anyways, so my achievement so far is that people believe that I'm from SB and Derby, and that makes me really happy, which means that I've fit into my role well. So Rushdie, who's an exec, was asking me the other day, like last week, being an exec, that you're from SB, right? No, I'm from University Park campus. And then I think you were asking me, you're from SB, right? No, Derby? No. I'm like, okay, achievement. That's like an achievement. It means that I'm working for my people. Maybe I don't have an output, but yes, I have tried my best. I've started off with little things, like, if not amazing things like Tron and Akila, but yeah, like doing small things. So I think one of the most successful things that I've done at the earlier stage was like the Jubilee Iftar, which I didn't expect at all would have such a huge turnout. But alhamdulillah, we had a huge turnout. And then one failure which I had was the SB Freshers Fair. Not a single person came, so we had everything set. And I saw, because when you see sisters, you know that they're Muslim, obviously, because they're wearing a headscarf. I saw Muslim people walking around and not passing by the ISoc stall. We did not have a single people signing up at the SB stall, and that was so heartbreaking for me. But anyways, we all know that we're doing this for Allah, and that's it. So I've spoken too much, so I'm gonna just cut it short. And advice for the next campus coordinator: I'm going to be your shadow no matter what. I might be off the post, but I'll be there to help you out in person and spirit. And then I think I'm also gonna do a document where I'm gonna have who to contact, what to do, and the phone numbers, so that it's easy for you and not run around hopelessly in every campus. And yeah, inshallah. Yeah, that's it, I guess. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for taking so much time. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions? Are we doing the question and answers now?
Yeah, may as well. You're up there.
Yeah.
Do you think we left ISoc majesty in when you left it?
Oh my god, bad question.
Also, I said that from the AGM.
No, it's not good as when yeah, because I have like few people here right now. I don't know. What do you think? Because I'm working, so I'm inside. People from the outside would have a better view of what's the state of ISoc now. What do you think?
I don't know how it was last year.
So anyone from last year, what do you think? That would be a great feedback, obviously, because when you're working internally from something, it's just difficult to understand. Like what people, outsiders would always have better reflection on that. But I don't know. I think in terms of SB, I have let down a bit. Yeah, because I couldn't form a community. But they had an amazing community last year. Yeah. In terms of Derby, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't even know Derby existed before I met John. Yeah, but ISoc as a whole, I don't know if it's at a better state. It shouldn't be at a worse state.
Let's hope not.
Yeah, let's hope not. Really fingers crossed. Yeah.
Is there something that you felt like you've learned throughout this year that you think will benefit you for years to come?
Yes, definitely. So,
Tell us what you've learned that you think will benefit you for
so not letting failure and negativity pull you down. I could have, because when I started off as a campus coordinator, you told me that I was the first female to be a campus coordinator, and I think I'm the first one to complete the campus coordinator role, because before me everyone dropped out. So obviously female, before me everyone dropped out. Subhanallah, I'm just done, doomed forever. But so yeah, so I was really demotivated, to be honest. In the middle, I was really demotivated, but then I was like, oh, I'm doing this for Allah, I'm not for showing off people what I have done. I have to go through this, and I will end this. I'll have to. So yeah, that's it.
What is your role exactly? Because I'm not too sure what a campus coordinator does.
So if I have to put this very simply, it's being the acting president of all the campuses and then reporting their demands to the committee, so that the events are not only UP focused, and you have events like in all the campuses, and you have so that people in every campus feel like they have an ISoc too. Yeah, because most of because I was inspired by you, to be honest, in the beginning, because I remember during my first year, Marysh used to travel back and forth from SB every single day to attend all the evening events in ISoc in UP, and she would take the latest bus from here to South Washington. So I was like, wow, I mean, that's inspiration. So that's when I felt maybe it's just too difficult for many people. But for many people, they don't really care. Maybe they just don't want to attend events. But some people, they really do. And even if it's one person, I would really love to work for that person. Yeah. Anything else?
This is to both of you to summarize your talks. This is my favorite question. If you could say one sentence to yourself from June to prepare them for their role, or some really wise, helpful thing, what sentence would you tell them? It can be funny, it can be anything. Something that would really help you.
Besides run away, screaming, it would just be soldier on, just smile and just keep it doesn't, you get through it. Because there are ups and downs, and everything in life, obviously. This is so cheesy. But like, I think the one sentence would just be, just keep doing it. Just keep on doing it.
Oh. I don't really have any wise things at the back of my mind right now, but I would just say, like Barney Stinson say, like challenge accepted. Accept the challenge, go for it. That's it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to us.
So I'm going to read it off my laptop.
Disorganization. The core ISoc.
So I'll go first and then we'll finish with our president. Okay. Okay, so my name is Rushdie and my role was publicity head.
Still is.
Is. No, we're all on our last legs now. This role was new this year. So I'm going to start the talk with what I was like when I came into the role. So I came to the AGM completely knackered from DIW after skipping many important things and dedicate myself to DIW, and I was absolutely knackered. And I came out of the AGM with the publicity role. So going into the role, I had three feelings. The first one was excitement, because this is a new role, it's a responsibility, and it's a chance for me to do more graphic stuff, more filming and stuff, to help the ISoc, which I was already doing. My second feeling was 100% pure worry. Because I've got very bad time management. I commonly describe myself to my friends as the last minute man. And my ability to balance my thoughts and my duties in the committee really worried me. And my third feeling was just of complete ambition. Because it was a non-existent role before that year. I felt like it was a blank slate, so I could really make my mark on it and just do whatever I wanted. And try and make people come to ISoc friends. So now, fast forwarding to where I am now, as I'm on the way to leaving my role, I feel a little wiser, more confident in myself, and I'm actually kind of excited for the future. Because I'm excited to apply everything I've learned during this time into my normal life, my non-ISoc life. I'm excited to give this guidance to the new person in my role. And arguably the most important thing, which I'm excited about, is having more time in my life to pursue other areas and passions with the new skills I've learned. But I wouldn't give up what I've learned for anything. So when I first came, I told brother that I didn't feel like I could take on this responsibility, but I did want to do it, but I just didn't feel ready. And he said, Tron, he's my home, said, he basically said, when you're put in a position where you're under pressure and you've got responsibilities, you just naturally rise up to the challenge because you have to. You become a better person out of necessity. And these words from Tron are what drove me through my role, to be honest. Just believing, having trusted Allah and myself that because I need to do what I need to do, I'll be fine, just because I need to. And it's honestly completely true. I've grown so much, learned so much, and even if you can't do it, you've got your whole committee there to support you, and if it needs be, they can even take on some of your burden. So it's really not a problem if you're worried in yourself. And it's also true when they say the time will go really quickly. This was something Hamad was saying. You're saying that by the time you're like settled in your role and you understand, you're in the groove, you're like I'm really good at this role now. It's time to go. It's time to leave. And that's really, really true. And I mean, I've learned so much how to be in the publicity role, and I'm still learning that. And yet, it's already time to move on. My next advice, number 2, is about being consistent and working effectively. Because anyone can work hard with the right willpower. But the key is to not physically and mentally exhausting myself and not burning out. And this happens with a lot of freshers who get involved with events like Charity Week and DIW. They get burnt out because they don't know how to, because uni and ISoc in general is a bit of a marathon if you want to participate for the whole life here. And you need to be smart with how much you get involved. And I'm not saying to be lazy, especially the guys. I'm not saying to be lazy, because a lot of the time we're lazy and we don't even notice. but you get a gut feeling when you're working too hard sometimes, and you just need to take a step back to breathe and think about what you're doing before you get back into it. My third advice is preconceptions and ambitions. I came into the role having no idea what the exec do at all. I have no idea. So I was coming in quite naively thinking, okay, I'll just make some posters on the side, advertise, the stuff I normally did, but just for the ISoc talks. And I was completely wrong. I was so wrong. So after my time in the Exec, I realized that being in the Exec is actually like the main part of your role. It's like being part of a single body, a single collective. And you are the people which plan together, make decisions together at events, and you're the driving force behind the ISoc calendar. And your actual titled role becomes like a side thing, which you just have to do as your title. I mean, that was for me what it was like anyway. And your title role is just something you do in support of your exec role. And so this advice is something I feel that you can only learn by being in the exec, which is the exec make changes happen, but not being in the committee actually gives you a much better position to create some positive change. And I believe this with my whole heart, and this has been agreed upon with lots of my friends who have been in the exec, which is when you're in the exec, when you're in the exec, you get bogged down with everything you need to do. There's it's not even a lot of things, but it just takes up all your time. Like on paper, it's not a lot of meetings and making decisions and just constant WhatsApp messages and things like this. And the ambition you had before you came in of all these things you were going to implement and change and just make ISoc 100 times better, they kind of disappear without you even noticing, because you're too busy thinking about just the menial tasks you're supposed to be doing. And this realization sort of happened halfway through the exec role, because I was going to meetings every week and just doing what I needed to do. And I realized I hadn't done anything new which I wanted to do. Like ISoc was still ISoc from before I joined in. And you don't realize this unless you take the moment to sort of reflect on what you're doing with your time. Because there's the stuff you need to do, but you also need to physically assign time for the stuff you wanted to implement. Maybe time to plan it or physically do it. Yeah. So I'm going to give two more advices, sorry for making it go long. This next advice, second to last, is no one knows anything. Like, you're in the exec or you're part of planning an event or something, and you forget that just because you know everything about this event, when it's happening, who the caterers are, what's going on during the event, it doesn't mean that anyone else knows a single thing about the event. And when you realize this, it'll push you to actually advertise and tell people about the event, because we're always so surprised when people don't come to things, and we think they're so amazing because we've planned them. But all that planning and stuff, people don't actually know about. We forget that because we're in the planning. So you need to realize, future exec, that no one else knows what you're doing or what's going on. So you really need to tell them.
Is that
The
Camera.
Okay, and last one is just be super positive and super nice to your team, and they'll be super nice and happy back to you. Like, you really do get back out of life exactly what you put in. If you tackle the day with full positivity and just happiness, even if it's not the best day, you'll be surprised at what happens back to you, and you'll just have a really great day no matter what. And work ethic wise, I've learned so much, and I have learned that schedule and planning and schedule, so like not having random days every single day and being up there all the time. equal good work ethic. Literally, changing your daily schedule into something which is actually structured you'll achieve things and you just won't expect it at all. And this has taken me 2 years of my degree and nearly the end of my exec role to finally realise this. And waking up early, going to sleep early, it's ridiculously amazing, and you get things done. And my life has changed in the last 2 weeks because of this. Okay, yeah, and that's my advice. Yeah. So anyone who's not in the exec, you really need to remember that you are the driving force for changes. If you have an idea, please tell the exec, because they're too busy thinking about silly things like
Surviving.
like to get plastic cutlery or metal cutlery. These pointless things. If you have great ideas, please tell it to us, because the exec are the ones which will make it happen, but we're not necessarily the one who have time to think about these things. So, is that okay? Yep.
You saw this coming. What will you tell yourself?
Okay. I think balance is the biggest thing. There's so many things you want to do, and so many things you want to get really stuck in and put loads of hours in and things. But if you put too many hours in one thing, by default you're not putting enough hours in other things. And literally the key to trying to do well is just balance. You yourself know best how much you can take on. It might take a few breakdowns and tears to figure that out, but you will get to a point where you realise this is how much work I can do. I can push myself this much, and eventually you can push yourself more and more. But before I get there, I'm not going to do this task, I'm not going to help that guy for a while while I get myself together.
Did you do it again? Say no.
I mean, I was telling like some people this, that I would love to do it again without my degree. That would be like to be able to take this role on without having to do my degree on site. But doing it again at uni, I would not do it again for now. But I wouldn't take back the year I've done.
Alright, assalamu alaikum everyone. So we just heard some very good speakers from IRAs and Rushdie. Rushdie just spoke mainly about this year and also the skills and that kind of stuff. But I want to take you more kind of on a holistic journey over the past 3 years and what it's been like for me and how I've ended up as president. So going all the way back to first year in September 2013, you can picture the scene, a slightly younger version of me coming into university for the first time, not really sure of what to expect, living away from home, and not really knowing anyone. So that was me trying to get to know people. And to begin with, I came to the Islamic Society through football. During Freshers Week, I went to the stall, and Father was there, and I remember him telling me that there was a football session which was starting in about 15 minutes. So, and the football session was in Jubilee campus, and I was at the Freshers Fair in University Park Sports Centre. So I was that committed to the football that I ran from the Sports Centre in University Park to the Jubilee Sports Centre, and arrived actually before everyone else because I didn't realise about ISoc timing that everything starts about 10 minutes later anyway. So yeah, but then as the first year progressed, I guess it was more kind of a community aspect. That's what ISoc was to me, trying to get to know people, make friends, and I'm sure that's what it was like for a lot of freshers as well this year. And yeah, so that first picture of me on the left, that's during Charity Week, and I actually turned up to this event only because I was living just opposite. So this is in Jubilee campus, and I was living in Newark Hall. So I just stayed behind after the dinner, the hall's dinner, and there was an ISoc event happening, which was a cultural bazaar. It turned out to be not the most exciting event, but it happened to be the first time I actually met Hamza Iqbal. And if you know Hamza, then you know what he's like, quite eccentric, quite excitable, and this was no exception. So he was quite a character and changed my life, definitely. But more will be said about that later. And of course, there was the Eid gathering, which was haphazardly organised by the Islamic Society. I remember there was a post on Facebook which basically said, Assalamualaikum brothers, inshallah come to the prayer room this evening and we'll have a social, it will be nice. Obviously, this is my first year away from home, first Eid away from home as well. So I thought, okay, I'll go along, see what happens. And when I turned up, nothing seemed to be happening. So I gave it a few minutes, did some sunnahs and stuff, and then I noticed there was a few brothers sitting on the side, and one of them was Omar actually. Omar, Asfar, and my good friend Daniel was about to turn up as well. So that was an interesting time. No one was really talking, so I go up to them and started introducing myself. And as was the case, as this set a precedent for most of the rest of this first year and part of the second year as well, where I was actively trying to get to know people and really make some close connections. But yeah, so that's mainly what happened in first year. So football was one of the main events I went to, the weekly football sessions, and the socials as well. As I've already said, getting to know people, that was my main kind of goal for ISoc. And that's something I really enjoyed as well. So I did realise that the ISoc did carry out a lot of events as well, such as Charity Week and stuff. But I wasn't that involved with Charity Week. When it came to DIW, I was a little bit more involved. So the second picture on the right there, that's actually us doing publicity for DIW. Yeah, it might not look like it, but that's what it was. And yeah, so I was getting slowly a little bit more involved with Islamic Society, and that was where I started to think, actually, I know quite a lot of people, and I think I would be a good candidate for Vice President. So when it came to the AGM that year, I decided to run for Vice President. Unfortunately, I didn't actually know that much about how the Islamic Society worked, or very much else apart from the people within it. And so I didn't actually get the position of VP, but it actually turned out to be one of the better things that happened. Because the next year, as second year began, I got the position of social sec, and so I was still getting to know people, and that was where I was recruited into the role of Charity Week Road Ahead. And now this was the first properly large ISoc role that I had had, and to be honest, it wasn't a great experience for me, because I ended up getting quite frustrated and not really being able to balance the pressures of ISoc and other commitments as well. So that's where I started realizing the problems of time management, and this will be a recurring theme, especially this year as well. But yeah, so that first picture is actually at the freshers dinner, and the second picture is at the final dinner of the year, both of which I actually had the pleasure of hosting. And so second year was just getting more and more involved with the Islamic Society, taking up more roles and kind of getting to understand how things work a little bit more. And then in the second semester, Hamad actually went to Malaysia, and as he went to Malaysia, or while he was there, I remember him asking me, because I was social sec and I was already working quite closely with Virgil, who was the vice president at that time. Hamad asked me to try and help out Virgil a bit more, and ironically at the time I said, no, sorry, I can't do that because I'm trying to focus a bit more on my degree. So that was a funny moment looking back, because at the end of that semester, at the AGM, for whatever reason, I decided to run for president. A bit of background on that. Hamad, for whatever reason, had been in contact with me and through WhatsApp messages and stuff, and I was getting to know a little bit more about what it's actually like to be president, or at least president from Malaysia. So I thought, this could be all right. It's not too bad. And then, course, what happened was someone had nominated me for the position of vice president. So Selena sends me a text saying, "Assalamu alaikum, you've been nominated for vice president. Would you like to take up the role?" So I, without thinking, I just replied back saying, "No, I'd like to go for president," which was just a few days before the AGM. So yeah, that was a fun time, good times, yeah. And of course, then was the AGM and got elected in as president. So that's what happened. But then begins the year as ISoc president, and it's so much more responsibility, and I didn't really realize that to begin with. And as I was going into my third year of medicine, a lot of people were saying, "Well, you know, you're going to have so much work this year as well. How are you going to balance the time with the ISoc responsibilities and stuff as well?" But as Rushdie said, you know, if you've got all these things going on, you'll hope to rise up to the challenge. And that's what I thought I'd do as well. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out like that, but I tried nonetheless. So yeah, so just a brief kind of overview of what happened then since the AGM. Well, we had the camping trip, which was a pretty amazing experience. It was very hectic to organise, but I can just remember on the coach on the way back, the feeling once it was done and everything had been sorted, it was just the best feeling ever. And then on the coach back, just having the most amazing sleep. And then as soon as you come back, like, almost reaching back, then you think about, oh crap, now we need to sort out people being dropped off here and there. So some people were asking to drop off in Jubilee. So I had to ask the coach driver, could we stop there or not? But yeah, so there's always little things to be worried about. Then of course was Ramadan, and we had massive open iftar as well. And all these things which show that ISoc is more than just about the events that we put on, but also the community and the strong kind of brotherhood and sisterhood that it forms within that. And then begins the third year. So of course we had Freshers Week, which I would like to think that this year's Freshers Week had been the best ever. Might have been because Eid was also during Freshers Week, but I guess we'll never know. And the regular events, so we've had so many classes. In fact, there's so many events going on right now that we can't even remember what's going on, or there's too many events going on at the same time, and it's just really hectic. But alhamdulillah, it's a good kind of hectic. And of course, we've got Hisham's talks, which are some of the most interesting things we've had all year. And yeah, of course, you know, we had Funding Futures and Discover Islam Week as well. This picture is from the canvas painting workshop of Funding Futures, and it just goes to show us, even if you're president, you can still have a bit of time to, you know, chill, as it were. And yeah, so this year's definitely had a lot of highs and lows, and it's to be expected really, because there's going to be times when there's a lot of work going on, both with your degree and with Islamic Society to organise. And as I've been mentioning already, difficulties with time management, they became extremely apparent this year. And the other thing with that is not being efficient with time, because what I've realised about the ISoc work is that you can end up spending loads and loads of time with ISoc and not actually seeming to do very much or getting very much done. So it's about being efficient with your time as well, and kind of spending enough time on it to make sure the job is done, but not then spending a bit too much time and then just wasting time on things which are already organised anyway. And yeah, so moving on, I just wanted to kind of highlight some kind of important skills which I think are important for anyone who wants to apply for an exec position. Some of these would be, you know, very applicable to president, but there'd be other skills which might be more applicable to people in different exec positions. So the first one I've said is you need to be self-motivated and proactive, and that's something that, although it is important for the entire committee, I would say it's mostly important for the president, because you're the one who's leading the committee. You're going to decide the agendas for all the meetings and planning all the upcoming events and stuff. You'll initiate those kind of discussions, so you need to be thinking ahead. And that's one of the things I think that I actually did quite well, at least in the beginning, because I realised that going into third year I would have much less time. So we started planning the first semester's events way back in August, Yeah, it's just having that foresight and thinking ahead. Then the second thing I'll put there is communication. As a medic, this is always drilled into us all the time. Like, you need to have good communication skills. It's really important. But it's just as important in an ISoc role as well. Both for teamwork, working well with your committee, but also having the people skills. So that's what I kind of was developing over the first and second year, being able to get to know people and dealing with their worries and concerns. And it's not just that as well, because being in the committee, at least the president has to talk to external organisations, the student union as well. So that's definitely an important thing to remember. And yes, time management and organisation, this is what I've been saying. So this is really important. And what I'd say is there's loads of different ways that you can manage your time. It's something that you kind of have to figure out by yourself, what works best for you. I remember I was asking Hamad what's the best way to try and work out time management. And he gave me a couple of tips, but those didn't really work out for me. So I kind of had to figure out what works for me, making a list and prioritising certain things and making sure if there's some small kinds of things to be done, like replying to an email, which doesn't take that much time, then just do that straight away, because if the more you leave it, the more the number of things to do actually just builds up. So yeah, those are just some of the skills. There'll be, of course, a lot more. And if you are elected in the exec, there'll be more said about this in the handover session, so don't you worry about that. And yeah, so just wanted to move on to then about the actual application process. First of all, I would say that you should definitely apply to be in the exec if you're thinking about it. If you're on the borderline, then I'd say go for it and then see what happens anyway. Because there's so many things you stand to gain from being in the committee. First of all, of course, there's the ajr, the rewards from Allah for doing such amazing work. If you think about the iftars that we organize, we were just talking today about Jummah khutbahs and all the people coming in to pray. Just being a part of the committee and making sure and being there to facilitate these kinds of things to happen means that you'll get a small share of those rewards. And it's just phenomenal when you think about it as well. Of course, there's being able to learn skills which will be useful in later life. Those skills that I've already mentioned, and then there might be other things that you pick up which help you in your future careers or anything else as well. Also, ISoc gives you a lot of kind of exposure to different organisations which you might not have been able to kind of think about before. And yeah, so just another thing is, ISoc is really just one of the best societies on campus. We organise events from sports, socials, religious stuff, educational talks. We cover the entire spectrum, and I don't think there's any other societies that can really say that they do as much as we do. So yeah, it's an amazing experience, and I think if you're on the edge, as I've said, then just apply and you'll see what happens. Even if you aren't successful, as Rushdie's already said, like I wasn't successful in my first year when I applied for vice president, but then you might be able to have more of an impact into Islam society, not being in a committee role, because you might be passionate about certain things, which if you were in a committee role, you would not be able to fully focus your attention on those few things. You'd still have to, for example, organise all the regular events, organise gala dinners, that kind of thing. But if you were really passionate about socials, for example, then you can do that without having to be in the committee. So yeah, don't think that being in the committee is everything. It isn't. You can do stuff from outside, and it might actually be easier to get things done. And finally, I'd just like to say, definitely make the most of your time at university, because these kinds of opportunities won't be available to you again, both in terms of getting involved and actually doing things, and also the events that we put on, and the kind of accessibility to all these things quite easily. I think sometimes we take it for granted, and yeah, so I think we should all try and just make the most of our time here and think about how we can do it a bit more effectively. Alright, so lastly, I'll just kind of run through the points about how to actually apply to be in the next committee. First of all, you have to be a member, so sign up on the SU website or at the reception downstairs. And you have to be nominated by 2 other ISoc members. And then these next few points are just what you need to bear in mind. You need to be able to say a short speech at the AGM, 1 to 2 minutes, and the president would probably be, or applications for president would be given a slightly more time. So be ready to say a few words on why you make a good committee member, and also be ready to answer questions from members in the audience. And yeah, we'll have a handover meeting on the final day of term. So don't book any flights or go home before then if you're going to apply for a committee position. Right, so you can apply either by text or in person, or you can send an email. And yeah, if you've got any questions, always feel free to talk to any of the exec members, and you can ask any specific questions about the roles to the person in that role right now. And finally, the AGM will take place on the 16th of March in A41 Clive Granger building from 6:30 till late, basically. We all know it stretches out quite a lot. Alright, that's my speech. Anyone's got any questions? Nope.